Okay, today we're gonna just read this post here about supervisor job. So if you want just to read the post, it's how I'm going to do here. So the link is in the description, so you can go there and read. Otherwise, you can just keep listening, reading, and see. I'm just scrolling through the page. Okay. Okay. So independent failure without breaking the tree. So one child throws and the whole scope dies. So Supervisor Job fix that. But you probably already have one and you didn't know. And the way most people reach for it, there is nothing except break structured concurrence. There is nothing except break structured concurrence. Yeah, I'm trying my English here too. And I will try to be more clear and speak slowly. So I have this progress recorded too. So, okay, independent failure without breaking the tree. Structured concurrence has one rule that surprises people and first time it bites. When a child fails, the parent cancels every other child. That's deliberate. Usually it's what you want. If one part of the job is broken, finish the rest is wasted work. But sometimes the children are genuinely unrelated, and one failing shouldn't take the others down with it. So, supervisor job is the answer. It's also the thing people most reliably use wrong. So, let's get the trap out of the way early. So, the default one failure takes everything. So in the code, we have this coroutine scope, and here we pass our specials. We pass in the main immediate, so we don't put these in the line in the main, but you just okay if you are already in the main, if the main is available, execute this one. Cut the line. It's basically this. If you don't quite understand what I'm talking about line here in these specials main, so we can have another video talking about coroutine scope, the specialist itself, how it's work, and everything else. Okay. So okay, here we have a scope launch, you have a delay, and then you have a error call boom, and then we have another scope. It's the same one. You're gonna launch, delay, print. So here, we have this error here. If this error is an exception, so this coroutine scope will be cancelled, and then this one won't be printed here. So this one is not gonna work. So the second coroutine never finishes. When the first throws, the exception propagates to the scope's job, which cancels itself and every other child and every other child. That's just what I describe it. So you will served here. Worst, the scope is now dead. A job that has been canceled does not come back. Every launch on that scope from here on returns immediately without running anything. If that scope belongs to a screen, the screen has quietly stopped working. That's why you have the number two here, the supervisor job. So that's make children independent. So here you can see we have our own coroutine scope, and here we pass in the dispatcher main immediate plus supervisor job. It's basically how the ViewModel scope or or any scope or any no sorry, but some scopes that we use works. The most famous the ViewModel scope here. Okay, so same two coroutines, different outcome. The first fails, the second finishes. So a supervisor job propagates cancellations downward but not upward. Cancel the parent and all children stop as before. But a child failing is not allowed to cancel the parent, so the siblings never hear about it. We're gonna have, we don't have a code here, but what happens when have this supervisor job here? These launches here are the child, okay? So that's why they said, oh, if this child here cancel, it's propagate the error uh, for the parent, but this scope is still alive. You can get the error, but this one will launch freely. It's just normal, okay? Okay, so the simplest never hear about it. One thing worth being precise about: supervision applies to direct children only. If a supervised child launches its own children, those follow normal job rules among themselves. So the supervision isn't inherited down the tree. It's a property of one parent-child boundary. Okay, so it's basically if you have another launch here itself, another launch inside, another launch inside, and inside the inside one. So if the inside cancels, the another inside will be cancelled too, and not run the code below it, because the only one that have the supervisor job is this first one here. So you have a launch inside here. We can type here. We cannot, but if you could, you got it. Maybe I will build this in the way we can type here and run. So I think I'm recording. I'm doing this. Maybe I ask for the AI to be honest. But let's keep the focus here. So okay. Hey, you probably already have one. So yeah, here's the part that changes how you read your own code. So as I mentioned before, we have this view model and coroutine scope here, and we can have this get closable coroutine scope. We are passing a supervisor job here. Yep, just pastures main immediate. Okay, and basically create. Okay. This one is basically what we have inside the lifecycle one. I thought they were editing this one, so it's not make sense. So view model scope is already a supervisor scope, so it's lifecycle scope. So with lifecycle scope, this is the another one that I am thinking about before, but I just forgot. Which means coroutines launched from ViewModel already fail independently. That's why you use ViewModel scope in the ViewModel, because we can do a lot of unrelated jobs there. Unrelated, we can launch unrelated coroutines, so it's not make sense if I'm getting an image, it fails and the user saves something. So not make sense we go crazy canceling everything. So okay, an animation that throws doesn't cancel your API call. That behavior isn't something you add. It's the default you inherited. And most code that reaches for supervisor job inside the view model is solving a problem that was already solved. Mhm. So the trap, launch supervisor job. I already, to be honest, I have encountered this before in my life, and it's pretty wrong. Okay, so don't do this. So if you have a model scope, even you have a coroutine scope, uh, for example, like this one here. So we have a scope launch, and here you open these bracelets here, and you call supervisor job itself. Don't do this because we don't can't predict what's gonna happen, because if you're having a supervisor job here, you're just saying to this, oh, you're not related with your father anymore because I'm passing the job here. So this we cannot tell what's gonna happen. So it's not a good practice, because you're just making this child an orphan, because we have a lot of informations. You have the name of the coroutine, the special the scope that comes from the parent. But if you're passing the coroutine scope itself, so we kind of losing it. So yeah, actually I'm passing some information that's not here. That's really useful. But the big individual, I say it's not being nothing here. So I was kind of wrong, right? But let's keep going here. So never do this in your life. The supervisor job, you're gonna put a plus here, pass the special, pass the handler. when you creating your own coroutine scope. So if you using the life cycle scope, which was the name, which was life cycle scope, yeah, that's right. Or the ViewModel scope never passed the supervisor job again. Okay, so it looks like launch is coroutine with supervision. It is something else entirely. When you pass a job in a coroutine context, that job becomes the parent of the new coroutine, replacing the scopes of the job. It's basically what I said. So the coroutine is no longer a child of the ViewModel scope. As I mentioned too, three consequences follow is bad. It leaks. Yes, that's a good one. So unclear cancels the view model's job, but this coroutine's part is supervisor job. Nobody holds the reference. The work keeps running after the screen is gone. Um, so the unclear is tied to the view mod scope, but the view mod scope itself. But as we pass the supervisor job here, so it's not tied to the parent anymore. So when unclear it's called, it's not a child of them, so it's not gonna clear this job itself. So that's why you have this leak here, and nothing waits for it. So anything relying on the scope's completion silence ignore it, and it doesn't even supervise because they don't have siblings. So the supervision protects siblings under the same supervisor. Every launch SupervisorJob creates a fresh one with exactly one child. So there are no siblings to protect. Yeah, so you're just creating leaking here in a lot of unexpected um, behaviors. And you get all the costs of leaving the tree and none of benefits you were after. So the same is true for with context, SupervisorJob. And for the same reason, any builder you want a job to will parent the coroutine. If you find yourself passing job into a builder, that's the smell. The only things that belong there are dispatchers, names, and exception handlers. Where does it belong? So where it does belong? I just take this off my mind. All right. Building a scope you want. So yeah. So when uh, we're creating a sync engine, for example, and we're creating here a coroutine scope, you're passing the dispatches IO here. So the input output one, and you're passing the supervisor job here also. And then in this top, we're gonna cancel for on lifetime or on coroutine scope. So you want the lifetime, so you must cancel it. It's basically this. Or supervisor scope. Building the scope you want, or supervisor scope, yeah, for a single block. And this one we use a lot with API calls. So when we have multiple different items. So yeah, for example, like this one. So we have a supervisor scope, then we have the profile, we call sync, we have the feeds and sync. As I mentioned, we can record videos about this one. I will write posts. I think I like this format, to be honest. When you have the post itself and we can talk about the code that we have in this post. So if you like the idea, drop a comment. Thank you, and subscribe too. Thank you again. Okay, so the dashboard sketch, you have your own catching here, feed, get to know. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The profile is this one, the feed is one. Catching feed await, profile wait. Okay. Okay, it's inside the dashboard. I was just studying the code too. So supervisor scope is the one people forget. It gives independent failure for exactly one block on block. Stays inside the structure concurrence and needs no scope to own or cancel. When you want supervision here and nowhere else, it's the right tool, not a custom scope. So what supervision does not do? So this is second biggest misconception, and it's the one that crashes apps. Yeah, so you're gonna talking about exception here, and that's real. So supervisor job stops a failure canceling siblings. That's it. That's all it does. It does not stop exception. On call to throw inside the supervised launch, it still travels to the coroutine exception handler. And if there isn't one that tries the full handle, which the Android means your app dies. So supervision changed nothing about it. So supervisor scope that generally allowed to fail needs a handler. So as I mentioned, you're gonna pass the supervisor job, the specialist, and the handler itself. So here I have a coroutine exception handler, and they're just using here this Napier. Honestly, don't know what about it, and they're just logging this child file and passing the exception itself. This Napier here, I honestly don't know, so I'm gonna take a look on this probably in a video so we can learn together. And for sync is different again. A failing async holds its exception in the deferred and throws it at await. Under the supervision, they simply survive, but you still have to await inside the try or run catching. A handler won't catch it for you because it was never thrown into the scope. Two separate questions, and it's worth asking them separately. Separately. Tell me if I got this word right. I think this most difficult in this post is to say this word here. So separately. I don't know. Should this failure cancel others? If uh, should this failure cancel the others? So yeah, supervisor job, supervisor scope. What happens to the exception itself? Handler or try around the wait. So should this failure cancel the others? If not, so you can use this one. And what happens to exception? You have to have a handler or a try around the wait. So I have the try catch. So catching the catch, and we can treat it there. So wrapping up. So before you add a ViewModel scope and the life scope and the lifecycle scope are already supervisor scopes. So check before you add. And then ViewModel scope and lifecycle scope are already supervisor scopes. Reaching for supervisor scopes inside them usually means misreading the problem. Never press a job into a builder. So like this one. Reparents the coroutine out of the tree, leaks, and supervises nothing. So two tools, two shapes. A custom coroutine scope when you want lifetime, supervisor scope when you want it in one block, and normally when you're creating here, we will also pass the special here and the handler. And supervision is not an error handling. It decides who else dies. It's not decide what happens to the exception. And forgetting that is how a supervised scope still crashes an app. Until then, let's make this work. And this is my key. I'm just making some time now so can appear the photo and the videos and the playlist. So good luck for you all, good studies, and I see you next time. Thank you. Subscribe.